Jeff Garman was an old-school journalist, a man who did intense investigations and reporting, a journalist who held the powerful accountable. Jeff worked for the Las Vegas Review-Journal. His investigations looked at everyone from law enforcement to corporations to local politicians. One of the local politicians Jeff wrote about was a man named Robert Tellis. Tellis was the Clark County public administrator. He touted himself as an honest politician and a family man. But that reputation was undermined by a couple of things. A domestic violence arrest where Tellis appears to be under the influence of something, and the work of Jeff Garman. Jeff published a series of investigative pieces uncovering turmoil in the administrator's office with claims of bullying, retaliation, and an inappropriate relationship between Tellis and a staffer. After the articles were published, Tellis lost his re-election bid. His life began to seemingly spiral out of control. Then 3 months later, Jeff Garman was stabbed to death. The murder sent shockwaves through his newsroom, and investigators quickly followed the trail, including images of the alleged killer that led to Tellis, who was arrested and charged with murder. Tellis says he is innocent and has indicated he was framed. And today he took the stand in his own defense to tell us his version of where he was and what he was doing at the time of the murder.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. What a day here at Court TV out of Las Vegas. We're, of course, talking about Robert Tellis, the politician slash accused murderer. Well, let's talk about this case. And for me, this case starts in one place and one place only: the ridiculous hat worn by the killer. That's it right there. You're looking at it. That's the disguise, you know, so the killer wouldn't stand out. Like, who's not going to remember someone wearing a ridiculous hat like that along with an orange vest? You fit right in. No one will even know you're there. Well, here's the problem for this defendant, Robert Tellis, is that the ridiculous hat was found shredded in his house. Now, did he have his own ridiculous hat that he finally figured out was ridiculous, so he decided to tear it up? And it's just a coincidence? Or was he framed? Did police shred the hat and then put it in his house? That could be what happened. I guess it's possible. That might be the defense to all of this. And this is Robert Tellis, so he's going to tell us. He'll tell us. Now, he also spoke to the folks in Clark County when he ran for re-election, and he failed to get their votes. He lost that vote by the citizens of Clark County to become the public administrator one more time. And as we know, all this happened after the articles were published that were written by Jeff Garman, the investigative journalist, who was 3 months after this election murdered, stabbed to death. So with him not getting that vote from Clark County, the question is, will the jurors from Clark County give him a vote this time? Will he win their vote? Because he's trying to. He's taking the stand in his own defense. Big day joining us outside that courthouse in Las Vegas, Nevada. Actually, looks like you're inside the courthouse. Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson. Matt, great to see you. Give us the big picture. Where are we right now in this case?
Well, they just wrapped for the day. Nice to see you, Vinny. But this was a big gamble here in Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada for this defendant, Robert Tellis, who took the stand in his own defense, giving a narrative to this jury of 7 women, 7 men in the box hearing the case right now here in Clark County. It was a packed courtroom. It was very quiet. In the gallery, you could hear a pin drop. You can hear the reporters in the first couple rows typing on their laptops. And then when the jury walks in, after he was already at the witness box, he's standing, they walk in, and he sits down, leans his chair over, facing them, and in a soft voice opens with, "I am innocent and I am being framed."
Wow. powerful. I heard that once before. In the last trial you were covering, Matt Johnson, Karen Reed's attorney said she was framed as well. Okay. So give us a brief description, sort of the big points from his testimony so far today.
Well, he talked a lot about his job and being an elected official and what his job entailed. He tried to explain that to the jury. We spent a lot of time there because, again, he says his job in uncovering corruption and also cheating within the industry of real estate is why he's being framed. And then he was kind of touching on different areas of being framed, and he was trying to explain testimony that we've heard throughout this trial in the state's case in chief, and how he believes that there were people lying on the stand, but he was told that he cannot give opinion on that, and he wants to address that with the judge. But he also said that he makes some faces at the defense table because this was the first time during this trial when the medical examiner was on the stand that he learned how the victim died and how many times that he had been stabbed and his throat was slashed. And he said this looks like it was a professional hit job. He's not capable of committing murder, or at least he's not trained in combat. So that was pretty interesting. And when I'm looking over at the jury, through the beginning of his testimony today, he was only on the stand for a couple hours. They were writing notes, they were leaning back, some people were putting their hands on their chins. But then towards the end of the day, crossed arms and a lot of looking at the ceiling, Vinny.
All right, so what can we expect next?
Okay, so tomorrow is going to be another big day. This defendant is going to be back on the stand for more of his narrative. Remember, his defense team that he hired for this trial, because he was a pro se defendant before all of this, they're not asking questions. So we're still in his narrative phase, telling the jury, but we haven't even reached the day of the murder, where he was, how he can explain the DNA under the fingernails of the victim, the items taken from his house, which he believes are planted there in a police cover-up. We haven't reached that yet. So we're expecting that tomorrow. And then it's going to be the cross-examination, and we expect some fireworks there, Vinny.
Oh, absolutely. So he's just telling his narrative, his story. Fascinating developments out in Vegas. Matt Johnson, thanks so much. We'll speak again. All right, let me bring in our body language expert, author of the New York Times bestselling book, You Can't Lie to Me. Janine Driver is with us. All right, Janine, I want you to take a look at some of the testimony of Robert Telles. Remember, he's a politician, or at least was a politician, lost his re-election bid. Take a listen to his introduction today inside the courtroom.
So please tell us. Begin with your story, sir.
Thank you, sir. So, first of all, and excuse me, I'm obviously a little nervous. This is it's a day I've been waiting for nearly 2 years. You know, this thing's been kind of a nightmare, frankly. And again, I want to thank you for being here. And right now, I want to say unequivocally, I'm innocent. I didn't kill Mr. Gurman. And I've got a lot to share with you all. There's been a lot of testimony, and my concern is making sure that you hear what I think about all these things, and you know what would the concerns that I have with some of these things that have been brought up. So during my testimony, I'm going to be sharing opinions. I know that folks like Zach Schilling and Mr. Mogg shared their opinions with you. And these opinions were, almost, I guess you could say, argumentative in a sense, right? Basically, Zach Schilling said, well, I'm an expert on shoes, and, I think that those shoes that the killer was wearing are the same ones that I've seen Mr. Tatus wearing all the time, right? So he's arguing that he's an expert and you should believe him. And I think the same goes for Mr. Mogg. Right, so I think that when I share an opinion with you, someone might say it's argumentative, and when I say something, I guess I specifically mean the state. But I think that when I share an opinion with you, that's my right, and it's your right to decide whether or not you agree with my opinion or not, whether you want to adopt my opinion or not. So I'm just hoping that I'm not stopped from sharing with you what I have to say. And when I guess right off the bat, I'll share an opinion with you.
All right, Janine, what are you noticing here from Robert Tellis?
You showed me a lot right there, Vinny. My goodness. Oh, my God. First of all, it reminded me of Governor Sanford. Remember him back in the day when he left? I think he went to Argentina and he left the country and lied to run off with his mistress. And he's like, the very law of God itself is, in fact, the law of, it's mumbo jumbo. He's talking a lot here. So let's dive in as I am transported back from Governor Sanford back to reality here with Robert Tellis. He is doing some stalling techniques. By him talking so long and rambling, he's telling us obvious things, trying to most likely build rapport, I'm assuming. This is a stalling technique often used to create a smokescreen behind what he's trying to hide. He said, I'm innocent. And I heard you reference Karen Reed, who, as you know, I think was framed because I brought it up many times here. Here's the difference. Karen Reed came out and said, I did not kill John. And we're not hearing that here. Instead, we're hearing, I am innocent. By the way, we hear I'm innocent by guilty people all the time. Why? Because we are innocent, Vinny, and you at home, until proven guilty. So that is a fact. You're right. He is innocent until proven guilty. So there's a little pass on the Karen Reed because she came out many times literally saying, I did not kill John. Now, he said this right now, Robert Tellis, which is very interesting. He said, you're going to hear from a shoe expert. And he's an expert on shoes. And he's going to say these shoes and this and that. You should believe him, he said. We have what are called, there's something out there called statement analysis. And statement analysis is words have hidden meaning. We've heard this in other cases too. If you can really discern and listen to what people are saying, often the truth is in the words. 75% of the time, someone who goes to jail confesses without them realizing they're confessing. So he's telling us we should believe the shoe expert who's going to tie in whatever information he has. Now, here's the next thing that I want to chat about with regard to him is his voice goes down here. Now, he has this very calm demeanor. But if you listen, right after he says, I'm innocent, his octave goes down a couple. And then he kind of remains there and then goes back up. Over 85% of the time, Vinny, you and the viewer at home, when someone is lying, there's a change in tone and pitch of voice. It's one of the big indicators of deception. We see that here. And this cavalier demeanor is not winning me over. Not so far. Let's see what we have next.
Okay, I've got him talking about the medical examiner right now. Take a listen.
The medical examiner testified about how Mr. Gurman was murdered. And, I had to see pictures of Mr. Gurman's body, in preparation for the case. And it's, obviously it's ugly. But when the medical examiner testified, that's the first time I'd learned how Mr. Gurman was murdered. I think it's the way that he was murdered speaks to, I think, something or someone who knows what they're doing. The idea that Mr. Gurman's throat was slashed and his heart was stabbed. I think that's, I don't know if anybody could just do that, right, without some kind of training, without some kind of expertise. So, and I'm personally not combat trained. And none of that. So it seems to me that when I heard that, I thought, my God. So that's, I guess, one example of the type of opinion I'll be sharing with you.
Okay, Janine.
Okay, Amber Heard. This is fascinating to me. First of all, he uses the word obviously. We heard this very similar with Ray Rice. Ray Rice sucker punched his fiance back in Atlantic City and then pulled her knocked out body out of an elevator. And then we saw Roger Goodell, the head of the NFL, came out and said, obviously, we didn't know what had actually happened or we wouldn't have suspended him for just a couple days. Anytime someone uses the word obviously, here's the deal, Vinny. Truthful people convey. Liars try to convince. So he's saying, obviously, it was hard to look at, right? Well, he doesn't have to add that. He's adding this word, obviously. It's a hot spot in my world. The first time I learned about how he was murdered, I believe that. I believe that's the first time he heard about how he was murdered. If you pay attention to the words, he didn't say it's the first time I found out how exactly he was murdered. It's the first time I learned about how he was murdered. I think that's probably the first time someone said to him, hey, here's what happened. He's not saying I didn't do it right here. He's also doing something very interesting we see liars do. Hey, he's making a case. There's no way he could have did it. Hey, someone who did this would have to know exactly what they're doing. I don't know if anyone could just do that. And his eyes are going down right, which are deep emotions, occasionally down left, which is internal dialogue. He's having a conversation with himself. And then after he says it all, he tightens his lips. We call this emotional control. When there's a lip roll, there's emotional control. We often see this with deceptive people and liars. I think he's doing, and then right here, this lip eraser, which is erasing what you just said. He's also doing a shoulder shrug here. I don't buy it. Right here, this, I think, is a video I'm going to be playing for years to come in my keynotes on what bad lying looks like. Trying to make the case, creating the smoke screen, telling us, one of the questions we ask in law enforcement is, who could have done this? And we're looking for people to say, anybody could have did it. Anybody could have did it. But when someone is saying it's impossible for me to have done it, the kind of person that needed to do that must have had these skill sets. That's suspicious. That is a suspicious.
And obviously he doesn't have those. All right, Janine's going to stay with us. Let's bring in our think tank. Join us tonight live in studio. Criminal defense attorney, entertainment attorney, former assistant DA in Atlanta, Daryl Cohen. Also joining us, criminal defense attorney and Emory University law professor Molly Palmer. And look who's here. Criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former CIA officer. That's why he's the man in black. Jack Rice is here. Great to see everyone. You're going to make everyone's memory forget at the end. You're just going to go like this.
That's
forget
exactly
the whole show.
Just look right at my thumb.
Bingo.
That's not Tommy Lee Jones we're talking about, right?
So, Daryl, let me ask you, the way he looks, his appearance, and the fact that he's doing a narrative. He's not getting question and answer. He's just going to stand up there or sit up there and tell his story start to finish. What do you think of that approach?
My question is, how does he get away with that? Why does the prosecution allow it? I think it's good for him to do that because he's not being interrupted in his story. But when he talks about being framed, that works maybe in Framingham, but not in the West.
That was good, Molly.
I mean,
that was
I'm never going to concede that Daryl's lines are good. I'm not going to say that was good. No, he has to do this, right? Because as a criminal defense lawyer, right, our job is to protect the rights of our clients. But some decisions are theirs and theirs alone. For example, to testify, right? There are situations where your client is insisting on testifying and you cannot stop them from doing so. However, we also have ethical obligations, and we cannot suborn perjury. We cannot have somebody take the stand and ask them questions that elicit lies. So what we're watching is a situation where his lawyers have said, you can take the stand, but we cannot ethically ask you any questions.
Molly taking us behind the curtain tonight.
That's exactly it. It's true.
You know what? This is what we know. We know that his lawyers know he's going to lie when he takes the stand. They know it. And as a result, they're going to put him up and they're going to say, well, we know you have a story to tell. We're going to go sit over here on our hands. And that's exactly what they're doing. This was an agreement that was done beforehand. There's no other way this would have been allowed to happen. And so he gets to just go. The problem is that he's been sitting on his bunk in his cell for 2 years looking at the ceiling, and he has a story to tell.
Festering, because he looks like Uncle Fester.
It's a perfect word. Actually, that's perfect, because in the end, he's going down all these rabbit holes. He's losing the jury quickly because he doesn't know where he's going except for in his own head, which is basically in circles.
There's a lot of space in that head. All right, think tank staying with us. When we come back, we've got a lot more to talk about Robert Tellis, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates the mysterious disappearance of a pediatric nurse and mother of a 1-year-old little girl. The community is coming together in Manassas Park, Virginia to try to find Mamat Kafli, missing for over 3 weeks.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan.
In every story, in every trial, every case, there's at least 2 sides to it.
To dive into the latest.
Oh my God.
And breaking true crime stories.
This was a very targeted, very personal attack.
Inside.
I've never seen that in Discovery. I've been incarcerated 3 years.
And outside of the courtroom.
She's a psychopath.
Now, Let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan investigates tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
I think about, you know, all the things, like all the things wrong in this case. And you add on top of that the fact that I've been sitting in a cell for close to 2 years. So I've had a lot of time to think about a lot of these issues. So again, I think I'm going to point out some strange things about this case.
Oh, yeah, he's had a lot of time to prepare for this moment and to think about what he was going to say. That's Robert Telles taking the stand in his own defense, giving his narrative to the jury, telling them his story. Let's take a look here. Here's who he thinks actually committed the murder.
This goes to the theory of my case, right? You know, somebody framed me for this, and I believe that it's compass realty, and I believe that it's for the work that I've done against them. And this document here shows the start of the work that I began against them. You're going to hear much more about the things that I did and the things that they did. And so, again, this spreadsheet, I think really, it's the beginning. And so I'd ask if I could please have it admitted. The state sold the home on December 31st of 2018 for $232,000. And the next sale was done the same day. So the person who bought it resold it the same day for $50,000 more. Now, as administrators have a fiduciary duty to get the maximum value that they can for the estate. When I see a situation, and again, this is the most extreme one. I mean, I'm not saying that all of them are like this, but you know, all of them are. There's a significant difference between the one price and the other price. This is just the most extreme one. Is, you know, for someone to be able to resell a property the same day for $50,000 more, it's just not right. We've got a duty to protect these estates, right? Whether it's, again, stopping criminals from getting into the houses and stealing stuff, or unscrupulous real estate agents from trying to work the system.
We found out it's all in the spreadsheet. It's all in this. Janine Driver, body language expert with us. Janine, what'd you think as he's going through the spreadsheet?
Okay. When he says that he thinks it's this realty company, he looks down, he talks about the spreadsheet, and he does that lip lock right there, right? When we don't like what we see or hear, our lips disappear. And look at this movement that he's doing and swaying. This is indicative of a spike in stress and anxiety. This lack of eye contact when he's talking about, this is what I think happened. This is called eye blocking. And if you think about your cell phone, all right? So this is my cell phone, and why do we have a screensaver on our cell phone? We have a screensaver so you can't see my private information. When people begin to eye block, it's because they don't want you to see their private information. It is like the screensaver on the cell phone. So while he's talking about this, and then mumbo jumbo again, back to this like Governor Sanford shenanigans where he's like, doesn't even, you're taking us down this rabbit hole, man. But that eye blocking, those lips disappearing, come on. This is a terrible goose chase he's trying to convince us of. It's just, we're not biting.
Let's hear more about those real estate companies.
When Mr. Gurman was murdered, a couple of things happened. One, the new public administrator did not finish acting on any of the investigation in Rajab Abdul. There's been no activity. So any of the investigating that I was going to do is not being done at this point. And the complaint I made with the Nevada Real Estate Division, I got documentation that it closed in November of 2022. And so, you know, I believe that this was, I mean, it'd be quite a coincidence if, you know, the fact that Mr. Gurman was killed, and it was put on me that they just had a serendipitous benefit from that. That all these things that were coming to a head for them, just, it's done. No repercussions, no nothing.
What do you think?
So there's a lot happening here. So we have uncertainty when he's talking. He also leaks some disgust and anger at the same time. And so when we see disgust and anger is like this and like this, and you see his lips kind of do this thing, it's hard for me to explain and demonstrate, but this is a strong aversive reaction to a person, an object, a situation. This can be some frustration, a hostility, but this is a deep sense of repulsion, which is interesting because we see the same exact facial expression. You see it throughout the day. We see it when he talks about Mr. Garman as well. And we see some concealment and repressed emotions, this scorn. So scorn is a combination of contempt, which is this, a smirk, and the eyes tightening. Like just a little bit. When we see him and hear him talk about Mr. Garman, then that's when we're seeing this. Right here, this is just, again, storytelling. It's such a waste of our time. It is a waste of our time. He does that shoulder shrug, which is uncertainty. Here's the deal, though. You know what? I think he's lying, but here's the deal. We can spot body language, but we don't know what the catalyst is to the body language. We don't know at the end of the day, can I say 100% certainty that he's lying?
Well,
no.
It'll be up to the jury. The jury will make the call on that, for sure. Let's bring back in our think tank. What are you seeing, Jack?
Oh, come on, let's take a look. He's angry. He's showing motive. He's showing everything that everybody is ignoring. It's very clear. You just don't care. Nobody cares. The AG's office didn't care. Clearly, the media didn't care. Apparently, all of these nefarious realty companies, you don't realize they're going nuts out there in Vegas. Apparently, they're all coming together, and it's all on them, and they decided that he's the one who's going to pay the price. You just don't see it, right?
Sort of a lot of self-importance here that the
public administrator.
The public administrator is the one you're going to target.
It's a huge
job. You're going to take him down.
First of all, I mean, you think that this narrative is good? Just wait for cross-examination. I mean, this is the problem. Here's the problem. I'm one of those lawyers. There are some criminal defense lawyers who say they would never put their client on the stand. I put my clients on the stand periodically and have had a lot of success in doing it. You prepare them extensively before doing so, but what you usually tell them, if you want an effective direct of the defendant on the stand, you say, listen to what I'm asking and just answer the question. Do not expound into all these other things that open you up to a horrible cross-examination. And here, that's all we're doing. That's all we're doing. So just wait, the cross is coming.
What's that going to be like, Darryl?
Do I hear, I plead the Fifth Amendment, or do I hear the story that never ends, that doesn't have a possible good ending for him? I'm not sure which or both. So, look, law enforcement is nefarious. They're all against him. All of the real estate agencies are against him.
Of course.
This poor guy is just a knight in shining armor without a horse.
All right. Think tank staying with us. More testimony when we return.
While I was being self-represented, I attempted to seek these surveillance videos that included the video of me washing my car, or videos of me washing my cars. The judge granted the production of that. However, I never received the videos.
The objection was sustained.
Oh, okay. So
The motion to strike is granted.
I believe the videos show that I didn't have the finger injury. If you think about it, if somebody has a serious finger injury, would they be washing?
Objection argument.
I mean, I would not be washing.
Testify about your own experience.
Sure. I believe I would not be washing my 3 vehicles if I had a serious finger injury. And as you've probably already gathered, you're going to hear about the fact that I was at the gym at around noon. And I believe I would not be working out with a serious finger injury.
I can't believe he works out. Okay. So Robert Tellis, accused of murder. stabbing, so the finger injury is significant in this case. Let's take a listen to more of his narrative testimony about this alleged finger injury and when he got it.
So when I cut my finger that night, I had used scissors to cut, you know, the super glue bottle had actually, the tip had dried. Sometimes when I have an open super glue bottle, the tip dries and I have to cut the tip. Right? So I had to grab scissors in order to do that. And I inadvertently left blood on the scissors that I forgot to clean off. But once I cut the tip off the super glue bottle, I super glued the tip of my finger together. I believe my healing process is such that I would not have had such a nasty injury for 5 days. Again, I can't speak to anyone else's healing process, but you know, that is what it is.
Janine Driver, body language expert. Well,
I'm transported back to 2008 when Rod Blagojevich, remember him, the governor of Illinois?
Blago, I interviewed him, yeah.
Oh my gosh, Vinny, he went on every show possible. I remember when he was on Letterman. Letterman goes, the more shows I see you on, the more I think, this guy is guilty. He goes, at first I didn't think it. The more this guy talks, the more I think, this guy is guilty. Let's see, I wrote down some words. Actually, the tip had dried. Let's talk about the word actually, Vinny, and you at home. The word actually means I'm comparing two things. We hear this with liars all the time. Now, if I said to you, Vinny, did you buy the red car or the blue truck? And you go, actually, I bought the red car. I know you're comparing the red car to the blue truck. I know what you're comparing. When someone says the word actually, by the way, if you're in corporate America, you're in sales and says, actually, I had a great time. Actually, Vinny killed it tonight. Actually, I know you DJ on the side. Big shout out for your DJ business. Actually, Vinny was a real good DJ, right? And as opposed to what? As opposed to he wasn't going to be a good DJ or he's really good on TV. The question to ask is as opposed to what? If we don't know for sure, then we ask opposed to what? This happens all the time. A bank was robbed at 2 o'clock. Where were you at 1 o'clock? I was at the movies. Where were you at 2 o'clock? Actually, I went grocery shopping. They used the actually at the time the bank was robbed. You became a leading suspect, right? So here he starts with actually the tip had dried. That, I believe, is a lie. He shoulder shrugs, which is an uncertainty gesture. And then he does something that he forgets to do, which is breathe. As he begins continuing to talk, he forgets to breathe. All of a sudden, there's no breath coming into. All right, okay. Rod Blagojevich happening right now. The more this guy talks, the more I think the jury's going to say.
Blagojevich had great hair. I mean, this guy has no hair. All right, Janine, that's great. Let's bring back in our think tank. Just point of clarification. Actually, I am a good DJ. All right. What'd you think, Molly, as you're watching him discuss the super glue and the scissors
and the tip,
and the blood?
I know. I think I love Janine, and she's compared him to a lot of people. I think her most accurate comparison is Amber Heard. This is straight Amber Heard vibes, and especially the way that he's like looking so intensely at the jurors. They don't like that. That's another thing if you're preparing your client for the stand or any witness for the stand. You tell them, especially describing something like cutting the tip, stop discussing it in such an intense way with that kind of eye contact. So you don't have to be a body language expert, I think, to feel incredibly uncomfortable and distrusting of Mr. Telles.
There's something about this guy, Daryl.
Well, this guy doesn't understand less is more. You've heard me say the KISS method over and over again. He has so overrun what he is saying, what he is testifying to, actually narrating to. He doesn't have the voice of Morgan Freeman. He shouldn't be a narrator.
I don't trust him with scissors. That's all I know. He's cut off the tip 4 or 5 times. I'm done right there. Tell us, sit down, put down don't run with the scissors.
I can't imagine being in that jury box and watching this and feeling this and trying to understand what's going on here. Let's play another piece of his testimony that we have. Here he is talking about his arrest video. And it was gruesome, the arrest video, so gruesome we couldn't show it, but let's take a listen.
The search warrant was obtained and I got pulled over Early in the morning on September 7th, 2022, the officers came at me with their guns drawn, yelling at me. And I was basically coming from dropping off my stepson at school, getting ready to go home to pick up one of my other daughters and then take her to school. And so they just, I don't know where 3 police cars just run up on me from the back, and I just scared. I had no idea what was going on. I mean, yeah, they basically yell at me to just stand. I can't remember exactly what they said, but you know, they're yelling at me. They patted me down. They handcuffed me. They threw me in the back of a patrol car. I asked them what I did. I asked them, you know, can I call somebody? Can I do anything? I mean, I did this for over an hour and a half. Just tell me what's going on. Tell me what's, you know. I mean, obviously at this point, I had my suspicions because of like the whole, you know, all that thing. But they wouldn't tell me what was going on. They just left me there. And the whole time, my family didn't know where I was. As far as I know, my daughter was expecting for me to come home and take her to school. I was distraught already by that point. It was my understanding that if I went to the Summerlin Area Command for them to just take this DNA and to take photographs of me, that I would be allowed to just come right back to my vehicle and go on my way.
Wow. Let's bring back in Janine Driver. Janine, it looks like he was expecting to go home. I think that might be true. I think he did expect, because when he got locked up, he started crying in court.
Listen, a lot of body language happening, but I want to focus on one word. Tonight we're talking a lot about the words. Body language, the lips disappear again. He uses the word basically. This is an interesting word for him to use. I basically dropped off my son. When we hear these LY words, I call them wiggle words. You know, basically we don't give promotions in the first year. I'm thinking to myself, oh, it looks like I'm getting a promotion in the first year, right? These wiggle words indicate there's more to the story. It's simplifying and trying to gloss over information the person doesn't want to tell you. Normally, typically, ordinarily, basically, what it would cost to do business with me is $25,000. You immediately know I'm going to negotiate with you. So right here, the word basically screams to me, what is it you're not telling me? Why are you glossing over it?
All right, Janine Driver, right on target. Let's bring back in our think tank. And here's an interesting question I have for you. Do you think anyone in that jury box might start to feel sorry for him after a while if he continues seemingly to be out of touch with reality?
Basically, I think the jury is not going to empathize or sympathize with him. I think the jury has had it with him, and I think they probably had it with his defense, his narrating his own defense.
I'll say I'm a good barometer when it comes to the accused and having a lot of sympathy or empathy for them. And I don't have it here. So, I mean, if I don't have it, I don't think they have it.
Well, Matt was talking about it earlier, too. They started out listening. They had their hands on their chins. They were taking notes. By the end, their arms were crossed and they were staring at the ceiling. We know where this jury is. Oh, by the way, he hasn't read the room. He's not even close to done yet.
No.
And we haven't even started.
I think this is going to take a while. It's going to take a while.
He's been practicing. He's had 2+ years to get ready for this big day.
Do you think he realizes this is like his last stand?
Well, he's not Custer. We know that. But he could as easily be Custer. I think there's one word that every one of the people in the jury wants to say. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he realizes it. I think some people, when they're in this situation, I've represented many lawyers. I know probably a lot of people here have. You know, sometimes if you know you're going down, you're going to go down in flames. And I think that that's what this is about.
This is his window.
Yeah.
This is his limelight, his opportunity, and he's going to roll it all out because he knows exactly what happened. And he's going to be able to explain it to everybody. Of course, we're already scratching our heads. I think we got a jury of 12 in there who are scratching their heads even more.
Are his lawyers obligated to use any of his testimony as evidence for their argument?
Oh,
or
I
are
don't
they going to avoid
they
it?
can't. No, I think ethically they can't even touch what he said. No. So I think during closings, what we're going to see is they're going to argue everything from every other witness and everything that the state presented.
But nothing about him.
They can't.
They can't.
Because if they do, they're promoting what they believe to be a lie. That's the reason they're not doing direct in the way we've always seen.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just think
prosecutor will spend a lot of time talking about him.
Prosecutors talk about knuckleballs, and that's what he's trying to throw them. In effect, it's not even a fastball, it's slow pitch softball.
But in his mind,
T-ball.
He's the smartest man in the room.
Just ask him. Just ask him. It's not even slow pitch, it's T-ball. Yeah. It's just sitting up there and just going, no, go ahead, knock it out.
All right, big thank you to Janine Driver and, of course, to our in-studio think tank, Daryl Cohen, Molly Palmer, Jack Rice. Great to see you all. All right, when we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, what happened to Mamta Kafli? The young mom is a pediatric nurse and seemingly vanished without a trace 3 weeks ago. Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
The WNBA is on ice this week. Features an Eastern Conference matchup as the Chicago Sky face off against the Connecticut Sun, followed by a Western Conference showdown between the Minnesota Lynx and the Las Vegas Aces. Coverage starts Friday at 7. Check local listings for games in your area. Ion, it's on.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at our big board, and there he is, Sean Finnegan, sentenced to death in one of the most gruesome cases that we've covered here on Court TV. Let's take a listen to the jury coming back with their recommendation.
The jury's reached a verdict in this case. We, the jury, unanimously find the following listed statutory aggravating circumstances beyond a reasonable doubt. And they listed them specifically. 1, the murder was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, and they involved torture or serious physical abuse beyond that necessary to produce death. Number 3, the murder was knowingly committed, solicited, directed, or aided by the defendant, while the defendant had a substantial role in committing any rape and or kidnapping. And 4, the defendant knowingly mutilated the body of the victim after death. We, the jury, unanimously find the state's proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the statutory aggravated circumstances or circumstances so listed above outweigh any mitigating circumstances. Therefore, we, the jury, unanimously find the punishment for the defendant, Sean Shannon Finnegan, shall be death. Upon the verdict, the jury find you, Sean Shannon Finnegan, to be guilty of murder in the first degree as charged in the indictment. Upon further verdict of fixing the punishment of death, it is therefore ordered that you shall be put to death by lethal injection in the mode prescribed by Tennessee law pursuant to the provisions of Tennessee Code annotated 40-23-114. You'll be transferred to the custody of the warden of the state penitentiary at Nashville, Tennessee, pending appellate review.